Yo, what up guys, I'm Sammy and welcome back to the Soul Brothers channel, and this is my first impressions look on the Anta KT7 Low. So this shoe has been out for such a long time. No, it's been leaked for such a long time. I think since like last year. And it's finally out. So if you guys do want to cop, I'll leave a link in the description box. It is available on Famuji, and there are different colorways. There's like a Bahamas colorway with like a cool gradient. There's this colorway, and I believe there's another one. There's 3 colorways of the low, and it's going for $140 to $145 depending on the colorway. And the KT7 is pretty much the same exact price. There's colorways that are going for like $145 to $150. I don't know why they do that. You know, they change the price according to the colorway, but they do that. And $145, I mean, keeping it like the same price as this regular KT7 is kind of weird. They usually bump it down like $10, right? Especially in like the LeBrons. The LeBron 19 is $200 and the LeBron 19 low is $160. But either way, $145 is still kind of like expensive. I remember when like the KT4s and the 5s were a little bit more cheap, and then the KT6 they raised the price significantly, and same thing with the KT7. But anyways, let's get it started off with the tracciones, and the traction is pretty much identical to the regular KT7, as you guys can see. And in this colorway of the regular KT7, it's a translucent outsole that I tried. And then here in the lows, we have a solid white rubber outsole. And it's inspired by the flow of water, right? Or this entire shoe's design is inspired by the flow of water, which is pretty cool. And we have some like wavy lines and stuff like that. The lines are super thick too, and the grooves are very deep. So I feel like it's gonna be very durable, especially on an outdoor court. And the regular KT7 had a solid bite, you know, a really good bite on a clean court. Picks up a little bit of dust though. But we'll have to see on the solid rubber outsole here in the lows, right? Usually, from my experience, solid rubber performs better on a dusty court. But of course, it's not always the case, but most of the time it is the case. So hopefully that's the case here in the KT7 low. But yeah, I mean, I tried it on my wood floors. There's a nice loud squeak and it bites pretty damn well. So I'm very excited about it. So the traction seems good, you know, it has a solid bite so far, and hopefully it picks up a little bit less dust, and it seems durable, right? Alright, moving on to the heel to toe transition. It feels very smooth here in the lows, as it was very smooth here in the regular KT7s, right? So here in the heel, we got a very rounded shape, as you guys can see, although it is super caged. Right, look at that. Look at all this caging, dude. All this plastic. It's like a softer plastics. It's not a very hard or very soft plastic, but I mean, you can, when you press it with your finger, like this blue part, there's a little bit of give, but this black part is actually very hard plastic, right? But as you guys can see, it's pretty caged, so there's not a whole lot of midsole compression, but this rounded shape is pretty nice. And then here in the forefoot, we have a very curved shape and a good amount, or actually a lot of forefoot flex, right? But also we have a carbon fibre midfoot shank plate, right? So that's gonna be good for torsional support. And yeah, I mean, it's pretty much the same here in the regular KT7s as well. So as far as like how it feels very smooth, and I love the quality, especially the carbon fiber. I mean, Chinese companies are giving us really good quality materials in their shoes, and then Nike just doesn't do that anymore. You know what I mean? Nike, Adidas, I feel like a lot of their shoes are super cheap, you know, especially like the materials, and they kind of jack up the price a little bit, you know what I mean? But either way, this is still a kind of expensive shoe, you know what I mean? All right, moving on to the cushioning setup. So it's pretty much the same exact cushioning setup as the regular KT7, right? Identical. All right, so we have the 3D hug system, which is like all this plastic, which is here to cage the midsole, right? And you can definitely tell how thick it is, especially here on the medial side. Look at how thick that is. She thick, you know what I mean? By the way, they're using a Nitro Edge or the N2 midsole. And yeah, it's very, very nice. There's a good amount of compression. It's super soft actually, right? That's probably why they needed so much caging, or else it'll be very, very unstable and not very responsive, right? So I definitely do understand why they added so much, but I feel like they could have gone the route of the hardens, you know what I mean? For example, in the Harden Volume 3, it uses full length boost, and boost is very soft, and if there's too much of it and if it's too thick, it's very unstable and it's too mushy feeling, right? So what they did in the Harden Volume 3 is they made it super thin, and they didn't cage it at all, really. And there's still good compression, and there's good step and comfort, pretty good impact protection for how low to the ground you are, but you're actually really low to the ground, right? So I feel like they should have gone that way. But of course, it's a KT7 low, so they pretty much reuse the same exact outsole and midsole as the regular KT7, which makes sense. So here in the heel, you're pretty high up off the ground. Here in the forefoot, you're pretty low to the ground, so there is a very high offset. That's not a bad thing, and that's not a good thing. It all depends on what you like to feel. Honestly, I like to feel a little bit of an offset as opposed to like a flatter offset, right? Also, another thing that I really like is the N2 insole, right? So if you look at the insole, you can see that it looks like Boost. They're probably taking pellets very similar to Boost and like heat welding it together, whatever, heat pressing it. But yeah, it's quite thick. There's a good amount of like give to it. It's soft, so step and comfort is actually very comfortable, especially here in the heel. And if you look at the actual strobo board, the strobo board is, it's not super stiff, but also it's not super soft, right? But if I remember correctly, the KT7s, I did need to break it in a little bit, and once I did, it was actually very nice for step and comfort, although the midsole doesn't really compress that much, right? So yeah, I'm liking the cushioning setup so far, and it's pretty much identical to the regular KT7s. All right, moving on to the materials, we have a very nice knit material, or so it seems, right? So here in the toe box, it's actually pretty soft. It feels a little, or actually a lot stiffer than the regular KT7s though, right? It's still, like, it conforms to your foot pretty well, but it definitely feels a lot more rigid. And I guess like more supported, which is a good thing if you want to feel that. But if you guys see here in the KT7, look how easily it's moved. It's a lot thinner too, right? Even though there's like a lot of fuse here in the toe box, it just, in my opinion, feels a little bit better in the toe box as opposed to this knit material, which is kind of crazy. But of course, that's just my first impressions. Knit materials do like break in very nicely and gets very, very soft usually, right? But like I said, here in the toe box, it's a lot softer than here in the midfoot. Like if you feel the midfoot, it's a lot more rigid. Look at that. A lot more supportive. It feels a lot more glued down actually than here in the toe box, which is a good thing. You want this part to be very supportive. You don't really need the medial side to be as supportive. I don't know why they added glue here. And then for the ankle collar, we have a very nice stretchy material, making the shoe a lot easier to put on, and I guess like a high heel tab. And where the tongue is, there's really not a whole lot of padding, right? It's more just like this knit material. And then here in the ankle area, we have a very nice, like, what do you call this? It's like an Achilles pad. It's very large, and it's like an independent pad that goes all the way down into the shoe. And another thing that's kind of weird is this like pull tab on it. What's the point of this, dude? It's so thin too. It's like, it's kind of hard to pull. I guess you can kind of stretch it out a little bit, but you would just go like this and then put your heel in, right? Either way, that feels very nice and cozy here in the back of the heel. And also another thing that is very nice for support is the extra stitching. You guys can see all the lines of stitching that goes across this material. Of course, it's supposed to be inspired by the flow of water, so it's like a wavy line, and this adds a lot more support to the material. And there is another underlaying material as well, so it just feels very supportive. And that's one thing that I don't like about knits though, you know what I mean? Like either they have to glue it down because knit is more like soft and not as supportive, and they end up making it either too stiff or too thick. And I feel like this is a little thick for my liking, you know what I mean? A little thick and a little rigid. But that's just my first impressions. We'll have to see how it breaks in. And of course, it is a one booty construction, and the eyelets are these kind of like cables that the laces go through. So the overall material, like the quality is great though. I do like the quality of knit. It feels awesome. It's just a little bit thicker and a little bit more rigid than I would like personally. And right now, surprisingly, I like the regular KT7 material better. You know what I mean? Like there's a nice Achilles pad. I like the tongue. There's nice padding for the tongue, and it's a lot thinner here and a lot less rigid. You know what I mean? But that's just, you know, my personal preference right now for my first impressions. All right, moving on to the fit. I went true to size and it fits me extremely well. It's a very similar fit to the KT7s, although the KT7s I would say is a little bit roomier in the toe box. The KT7 low feels a little bit more snug, but I feel like, you know, it'll break in and stretch out just a little bit because it is a knit material, right? Also, it is pretty damn narrow. and snug here in the toe box. So it's a perfect fit for me. I like to have a very snug fit in my ball shoes. If you want a roomier fit or you have a wide foot, I would suggest going up half a size or even a full size. And like I said, this shoe is very easy to put on because of the stretchy knit collar and also this very large heel tab. Alright, for supporting lockdown, as far as lateral containment goes, I feel like it's going to be good. Like I said, here on the lateral side of the shoe, it just feels really rigid and very glued down, right? Which is good for support. And then here on top of the toe box, it's a lot softer. So it feels very supportive here. And also we have the cage coming up, acting as a sidewall. And then here in the heel, we have this plastic, like for the 3D hug system, we have this plastic and a crazy internal TPU heel counter. So lateral containment, I feel like is going to be very, very good. And there also is a very wide and sharp outrigger here. So lateral stability is probably going to be good as well. All right, moving on to the weight. When I first took the shoe out of the box, I was like, yeah, it feels kind of heavy, right? I'm guessing like 13 ounces. Let's see. Oh my God, 14.5 ounces. That's pretty damn heavy, especially for a low. Let's check the other pair. Yeah, 14.74 ounces. Holy crap, guys. That's pretty damn heavy. Let's check the regular. I feel like this is gonna be lighter. Okay, it's a little bit lighter, 14.25 ounces. And yeah, that just speaks to like, I feel like they did a little too much for the knit, you know, just in my personal opinion. Like I think it's a little thicker than I would like and a little bit more rigid, like I said. It feels kind of heavy. And there is a good amount of like weight underneath your foot just because there's a lot of stuff going on here, right? But it feels good so far. And the KT7, although it was like kind of heavy, it was a very responsive shoe because the traction was good and the cushion was very nice and responsive as well. So the KT7 low, hopefully, you know, it breaks in nicely as far as the cushion and the knit goes. Let's check the other lows, man. Like the KT6 low was super light, if I remember correctly. Yeah, 13.47. Yeah, that's not light, but it's lighter, right? And then let's check the KT5 low. This was one of my favorite shoes. This is one of my favorite shoes actually in Klay Thompson's line. This shoe is a lot lighter. Yeah, 11.22 ounces. Like what happened? What happened, guys? It's just they add like way too much rubber and stuff for the cage and just like look at this. You know what I mean? But either way, there's the weight there. Moving on to the aesthetics. I love it. It looks awesome. I actually feel like it's one of the best looking Klay Thompsons in his entire line. Like 5 is weird looking. Remember this one with the duck beak thing? Yeah, this is a great looking shoe. I love the way the knit looks and it looks great on foot. So tell us what you guys think of the aesthetics down in the comment section below. So wrapping things up, I was super excited about the KT7 low when the leaks came out and I finally got it in. And I'm just a tiny bit disappointed, you know, the material is not as nice as I thought or as I would like it. And it's pretty damn heavy. But of course, that's just my first impressions. I mean, the quality is still great though. I mean, the knit quality is awesome. They're giving us carbon fiber. The cushion is awesome as well. So like the craftsmanship and the way they made the shoe, it just feels very nice and premium. So hopefully once I break it in and plane it, the materials get a lot softer and the cushion gets a little bit better. But you know, of course, it's the same thing as a KT7, so it'll definitely be nice, right? So anyways, that's my first impressions of the KT7 low. Again, if you guys do want to get it, I'll leave a link in the description box, but that's it. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.